But you see, I've been busy planning for another video. Our final video. Anyways, tonight we are going to be reading more Five Nights at Freddy's, The Silver Eyes. I hope you guys are ready. Now the door hung. Opened slightly, but Charlie didn't disturb it a bit. It hadn't been opened for her. It had only given way to time. As she moved, to stand, she noticed something shiny, half hidden under the rim of the locked middle door. She leaned forward to pick it up. It looked like a broken off piece of a circuit board. She smiled slightly. Nuts, bolts, scraps, and parts had turned up all over the place. Once upon a time, her father always had stray parts in his pockets. He would carry around something he was working on, set it down, and forget where it was. Or worse, put something aside for safekeeping, never to be seen again. There was also a strand of her hair clinging to it. She unwound it carefully from the tiny lip of metal. It was stuck on finely. As though she had been putting it off, Charlie faded it. The sun-like front of his body. Oh, I've missed a bunch of parts. Sorry about that, guys. I missed a bunch of parts. As though she had been putting it off, Charlie crossed the room and picked up Theodore. His back had not faded in the sun like the front of his body, and it was the same rich dark purple. She remembered. She pressed the button at the base of his neck. But he remained lifeless. His fur was threadbare. One ear hanging loose by a single rotten thread. And though the whole she could see the green plastic of his circuit board. Charlie held her breath, listening fearfully for something. "I will lie," the rabbit said, with a barely audible halting noise, and Charlie set him down, her face hot and her chest pinched tight. She had not really expected to hear her father's voice again. "I love you too." Charlie looked around the room. When she was a child, it had been her own magical world, and she was possessive of it. Only a few chosen friends were ever even allowed inside. She went to her bed and set Stanley moving on his track again. She left, closing the door behind her. Before the little unicorn came to a halt, she went out the back door to the driveway and stopped in front of the garage that had been her father's workshop, half buried in the gravel a few feet away. A piece of metal and a few feet away was a piece of metal, and Charlie went to pick it up. It was jointed in the middle, and she held it in her hands, smiling a little as she bent it back and forth. An elbow joint, she thought. I wonder who this was going to belong to. She had stood in his exact spot many times before, or in this exact spot many times before. She closed her eyes and the memory overwhelmed her. She was a little girl again, sitting on the floor of her father's workshop, playing with scraps of wood and metal, as though they were toy blocks, trying to build a tower with the uneven pieces. The shop was hot, and she was sweaty, grime sticking to her legs as she sat up in her shorts and sneakers. She could almost smell the sharp metallic odor of the soldering or iron. Her father was nearby, never out of sight, working on Stanley. The unicorn Stanley's face was still unfinished, one side white and shining, one side white and shining and friendly with a gleaming brown eye that seemed almost to see the other half of the toy's face was all exposed. Circuit boards and metal parts. Charlie's father looked at her and smiled, and she smiled back. Beloved, in a dark corner behind her father, barely visible, hung a jumble of metal limbs, a twisted skeleton with burning silver eyes. Silver eyes, guys, remember that. Every once in a while, it gave an uncanny twitch. Charlie tried never to look at it, but as her father worked, as she played with her makeshift toys, her eye was drawn back to it again. The thing, looking back again. The limbs contorted seemed almost mocking the thing, a ghastly gesture. And yet there was something about it that suggested enormous pain. Daddy, Charlie said, and her father did not look up from his work. Daddy, she said again, more urgently. And this time he turned to her slowly, as though not fully present in the world. What do you need, sweetie? She pointed at the metal skeleton. Does it hurt? She wanted to ask the question, but when she looked into her father's eyes, she found the cold that she found she could not. She shook her head. Nothing. He nodded with an absent smile and went back to his work. Behind him, the creature gave another awful twitch, and its eyes still burned. And we're gonna leave it there, guys. Sorry it was so short, but it's getting late. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys